in the government, but I also went to the State Department. So I bought the shirt to support the Marines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the shirt to show where you went. So you don't get to go. You don't get the shirt unless you've been there, right? So I got to go to Moscow in my time. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. Sort of. Subtract all the people. Oh, well, film. So leave that alone. So welcome, welcome. Tonight we are going to study the book of Daniel. We're going to go through. This will be a couple of times. We're going to go through the book of Daniel, specifically the parts that are actually tied to eschatology. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what we've gone through so far. We talked about we talked about how you should interpret the Bible, and we're supposed to interpret the Bible from a normal, literal hermeneutic. We do not. What the Bible says is what it says. We do not try to take the Bible out of its own context, and we do not apply certain theology to the context of the Bible. We let the Bible explain to itself. That was week 1. Week 2, 3, 4, 5 was also discussing the covenants. We talked about which covenant we talk about.
Abrahamic.
The Abrahamic covenant, which is the biblical covenants, the most important covenants that we see in the Bible, which is the Abrahamic covenant. And we saw from the Abrahamic covenant, what 3 covenants came out of it.
The Mosaic.
No.
The Davidic.
The
Canaanite
or the Palestinian, and the New Covenant. Okay, so out of the major Abrahamic covenant, which was to Abraham and his seed, we get the 3 covenants. We get a land, seed. Think of it, the land, seed, and blessing. Okay, God is and that covenant basically controls the rest of the Bible. The ideas of the Bible. Okay, if you look at what was going on throughout this biblical story, you will see those who cursed and punished the Israelites, God eventually punished, and those who blessed the Israelites, God blessed them. Okay, you see that throughout the rest of the Bible. And then as time went on, God started not modifying, but he started providing more information to those covenants. So that's where you get the Davidic covenant. He started focusing on that particular seed. That seed who's to be the person who sit on the throne of David, and who's that person to be?
Jesus.
Good job. Jesus. Jesus is the what? The ultimate seed of Abraham. He is the seed of Abraham. Also the seed of who?
David.
And he's also the seed of female.
Eve.
Right? The seed of the woman, which was foretold in the Bible to come and destroy the head of Satan. Okay? God then narrowed it down from all humanity to Abraham and his descendants, and it was narrowed down further through Isaac, Jacob, the 12 sons, Judah, and now to Jesus. Okay, so that was the narrowing down to the coming of Christ. Now we as Gentiles here, we are blessed through the blessings of Abraham. Okay, all right. So none of us here are Jews. None of us here. We don't turn into Jews when we become Christian. We're not Israel, but God has said He will bless the nations through Abraham, and He has blessed us with the coming of Christ. However, He has not set aside Israel. Okay? He has not set aside Israel. This is highly important. He has not set aside Israel. When God makes a covenant, it is what? Typically unilateral. It's set in stone. Because God Himself is a person who He is faithful, and He's going to fulfill what He says. Right? He does not lie. He has promised Abraham a specific land. He has promised them blessing, and He has promised them the seed. None of those have come yet, except for the seed. Okay? Everybody understand this? Yeah. So this is why we understand that there will be a millennium where all the promises of the Abrahamic covenant will come to fruition. Okay? So this is one of the most important elements of the Abrahamic covenant. This is why it's imperative when you're studying eschatology, you understand the covenants. That's why I went over so much about the different covenants. All right? There's one covenant you mentioned, though, which was not a unilateral covenant. What was that?
The Mosaic.
The Mosaic covenant. That was the law, which was to bring us to Christ. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But even within the law, God actually was faithful to Israel, despite Israel's unfaithfulness. Now, there was never a time when Israel was ever faithful.
No.
They were always unfaithful. God chose them. Why? Was it because of
Abraham?
Because of Abraham. Because of his own. And why did he choose Abraham?
Because he was faithful to him.
No.
No.
He chose Abraham because
He wanted to choose
he
Abraham.
decided to choose Abraham. Okay? God's choosing is not in relation to the person, but it's in relation to his choosing, internal to his choosing. Okay? God chose him based on his own internal self. And just like in salvation, we are chosen based not on our works or not on how good we are. We are chosen by God because God himself decided to choose us. We are not worthy of his choosing. Neither was Abraham.
Wow, that's amazing.
Amen?
Yes.
Yes.
So God doesn't change his actions towards us in that manner. He chooses, and he has declared that to be so. It's his basis, his choosing. Amen?
Amen.
So you also see how other parts of theology works in eschatology. So God chose a nation. He chose the nation of Israel to be his representative. Does that nation was unfaithful? They're set aside for now, but God is still going to what? Have his choosing be realized.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So right now we're in the church age. All right?
Mm-hmm.
This is when God is calling a people from the Gentiles. And we are the fortunate ones to be called by God from amongst the Gentiles. All right? We have been chosen amongst the Gentiles to serve him. Because God wants to bless the nations as well. Yet he chose Israel. But at some point in time, he's going to deal with Israel. Okay? He will deal with Israel eventually. Now, why we have to understand this context? Because this context is what happened with Daniel. Okay? So in a week or two, we're going to go through the Daniel's prophecies and see how God explained to Daniel how he's going to eventually deal with Israel. Because remember, Daniel is not talking about the Gentiles. Who's he primarily concerned with?
Israel.
His people. His people in that context is Israel. When Daniel says, what are my people going to do? He's talking about his people, Israel. All right? So God is talking to Daniel in the context of what Daniel wants to know, which is his people, Israel. All right? So, there's a number of prophecies that hit in Daniel that we need to focus on. First one's in chapter 2. All right? So if you go to Daniel, this prophecy was actually given to who? Nebuchadnezzar in a dream. Okay? And God uses Daniel to interpret said dream, given very similar to how he did who exactly? What does this make you remind you of when God uses a pagan, specifically a pagan king, to have a dream, and then uses his chosen to interpret that dream? Where do we see that in the Bible? Joseph.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Joseph was a seer, interpreter of dreams. He was able to interpret dreams. So God uses Daniel to interpret a dream that he given to Nebuchadnezzar. All right? This very, very, very pagan king. Okay? That God used to punish Israel for their unfaithfulness to the Mosaic covenant. Okay? So, keep this in mind. Now, a couple things happened in the with what was going on with Daniel. Why were they sent in exile? Why did God send
unfaithfulness?
What were they unfaithful? Why did God send Israel into exile? Because they're unfaithful
to him.
Yes, they're unfaithful to the Mosaic covenant, and there was specific law in the Mosaic covenant. God specifically told him, I'm sending you away for 70 years. Why did he say 70 years?
For it was the Sabbath years
Yes,
that they missed.
Israel ignored the Sabbath years for the land. So God said, I'm giving the land, the Holy Land, a rest. So I'm
Explain that a
sending you
little
off.
bit more. I'm not understanding that.
Great question. This is always important here because it's going to come up later. All right? So Judah was around for about 490 years, okay? Every 7 years, according to the Mosaic covenant, Israel is supposed to give the land a rest and not farm it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Did Israel do that?
No.
Nope. So if you look at this, for every 7th year, they kept farming. Every 7th year. So if you look at this, you just do divide, simple math, you get 70 years of disrespect of the land. Not giving the land its rest. So in Jeremiah, God said, I am punishing you. I'm going to have Babylon, this evil country, this evil nation, come and take you off the land and ship you away because you have not given the rest to the land that I've asked you to. And he told that specific to Judah, the southern kingdom. What happened to the northern kingdom of Israel?
They split away right after Solomon.
Yeah, so they split away, but they were all evil. And God scattered them for a long time. They're still scattered.
Yeah.
They're still scattered.
Yeah, Syria got hold of them.
Yeah, Syria got hold of them 100 years before this. Almost like in the 8th century. Syria got hold of them and scattered them. Okay? During the time of Hezekiah, who was ruling in Judah at the time, in Jerusalem at the time, the Davidic line. And he actually came up and they almost took over Jerusalem. And God was like, you're not going to take Jerusalem. This is not your job. And they came and they cursed the king and they spoke out in Hebrew tongue. And they're like, no, you should speak Aramaic because we understand Aramaic. I said, no, we're going to speak Hebrew so your people will know. And then they cursed the God of Israel. The people went back and told Hezekiah. Hezekiah then prayed. God gave Isaiah a word. He went and told, God gave Isaiah a word. He went and spoke to him. And then what happened that night? 185,000 Syrians died. And they no longer had they no longer could siege the place because they lost 185,000 of their troops. One angel destroyed 185,000. God was like, disrespect me, let me show you something.
Angels are strong.
Yeah. That's why when you see an angel show up, it's like, oh my gosh, get down in your face. It ain't like, I'm going to hang out with an angel. No, get down on your face. Because these people are powerful.
Yes. They
So,
mean business.
Yeah, they definitely mean business. So, God saved them in that miraculous way. Judah continued to be sinful, right? We see that throughout Jeremiah. There was some aspects of redemption, a little bit with Hosea, right? He found Josiah, the king Josiah, tried to make reforms. He did some reforms, but by then it was too late. Jeremiah was like, we are way too far gone. God is going to let you not have the punishment, but your family will, because y'all need to be punished. So Josiah died when he was 30, around 30, 31, fighting Egyptians. And the person who took his place was his son, and his son went back to sinful ways, going the way normal people do, sinful against him, and God eventually took Jeconiah and had Josiah. There's a lot of different kings that
like
Babylon then whacked them, right? In 610, Babylon took the first captives, and Daniel was one of the first captives. Okay? Keep that in mind where Daniel came from. Daniel, and then you see the Hebrew boys, right? Mm-hmm. And what Daniel would do was, what they would do is take a group of good, they think is the cream of the crop. This is what the Babylonians would do. And Babylonize them, train them in their views, but they're going to be Hebrews, but they're going to be trained in the ways of Babylon. So they needed to send them back to rule. They're going to be subservient to the king. So he took like a couple of thousand of them, probably 10,000 if I remember correctly. Took 20 years or more. Castrated him. So Daniel was unfortunately castrated. Unfortunate for him when he was roughly 20. That's a very sad situation for him. I pray for him every day. So he was castrated, and then he was told to eat the food, and he told him not to eat the food. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And they said, well, if you don't eat the food, if you start looking, shabby, we're going to have to make you eat this food. And that's what the whole idea of Daniel's diet. Never do Daniel's diet, by the way. No. Remember Daniel's diet, he plumped up. So
because he ate
he ate good food. He ate the food that was given to him was basically just vegetables.
Yeah.
But instead of plumping up like everybody else was doing, well, he plumped up just like everybody else, because he was faithful to the Lord and not eating the uncultured food. Wow. Right? So he looked very healthy, much more healthy than everybody else. So they let him eat the food. Him, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which sad you don't know their real names. Yeah. That's not their real names.
Really?
Well, yeah, it does say their real names.
Their real names are that Shadrach, Meshach. That was their Babylonian name.
Wow.
Yeah, but sadly, we only know them by the Babylonian names.
Yeah.
Their real name is actually in the Bible, though. It's Azaniah.
What part? What
chapter 1, I
Daniel?
believe.
In Daniel, yeah.
Chapter 1? Well, I'm gonna. I listened to it. I'm gonna get that down tonight.
Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. That was their real names. And they were given the name Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel was also given the name Belshazzar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So God gave in that context, you have Daniel sitting here, a eunuch, unfortunately, in the king's court. God gives Nebuchadnezzar a dream, right? And this is in the context of where Daniel's being sit under. Okay, so the dream was of a statue. The statue had a head. Now I am a terrible drawer, but I will draw it in stick figures. Big old head, gold head, silver chest, bronze body, torso.
Yeah.
His legs were what?
Iron and clay.
No, their legs were iron.
Feet were clay and iron mixed.
Yes. All right, and he had 10 toes. All right.
Yeah.
So the head was gold. The chest was silver. What was this? Bronze.
Bronze. Yep.
And this is iron. Legs were iron. The feet were iron mixed with clay. Mix. And I noted he had 10 toes, representing something. And then then something came out of the sky. A boulder, a boulder, a stone not made with human hands comes, and it shatters, not the statue.
No,
it shatters the feet. Hits the feet.
Yeah. Then it couldn't stand up.
Crushes the feet. Okay. And once it crushed the feet, that became a large mountain. Okay. That was the dream. So, in Babylon, they had all their seers try to figure out what this dream was. What does this dream mean? So, nobody could answer Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? So Daniel went to his house and made the matter known to his friends, that they may seek compassion of the Lord of heaven, concerning his mystery, so that Daniel's friends would not be destroyed as the rest of the wise men in Babylon. So what was going on is, if you couldn't answer the dream, Nebuchadnezzar was like, "You're done.
Yep.
I'm gonna whack you." Yeah. What's the dream? Oh, you don't know it? Die. What's the dream? You don't know it? Die. Right? So he was doing that left and right. Right?
Mhm.
So very important. Very important. So Daniel prayed, and God gave him the specific interpretation. So this interpretation, God told Daniel, and Daniel explained in the Bible. The head of gold was Nebuchadnezzar. Right? These are the nations of these are the kingdoms of the earth. Okay, the next four ruling kingdoms of the earth. Okay, the head of gold was currently Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar, blows up Nebuchadnezzar's head. Babylon. Silver was the next kingdom, which was the Medo-Persian Empire. After that was the bronze, which would be the Greek Empire that came after the Medo-Persian Empire. Iron, it doesn't say in the Bible who it was, doesn't say Daniel who it was, but history tells us the kingdom that came after the Greeks were who?
Romans.
The Romans. Okay? Roman Empire. Alright? Now, after the Roman Empire, we see something that is iron, like the Roman Empire, but is weak because it's mixed with clay. And it has 10 toes. Okay? 10 toes mixed with clay. So this, we can interpret it as some type of Roman, vestiges of the Roman Empire, weaker than the Roman Empire, had 10 toes, had 10 kings. That will be destroyed by the Ancient of Days. And he will set up his kingdom. And it will rule forever. It just became a great mountain and ruled forever. Okay? So that was the interpretation of Daniel's prophecy in chapter 6. Chapter 2. I said 6. Chapter 2. Okay? That is the interpretation that everybody agrees with. Okay? So we can read this in chapter 2, starting at 31. O king, were looking, and behold, there was a great image in that image. So here's the funny part about it. Just like in Joseph, the Nebuchadnezzar did not tell you the dream. He just said you need to interpret the dream, know what the dream is, interpret it. If you're a wise man, you're supposed to know this dream, right?
Yeah.
So Daniel came to him and said, "O king, you were looking, and behold, there was a single great image, and that image was large and extraordinary splendor, rising up in front of you, and the appearance was awesome." So it was a huge image. The head of that image was made of fine gold. Its breast was armed of silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs were of iron, and the feet partly iron and partly clay. You continue to look at this. You continue to look into a stone cut without hands, struck the image on its feet of clay and iron, and crushed them. Then the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold were crushed all at the same time, and became like shaft from the suburb threshing floor, so just blown away, carried away, without a trace of them were found. But the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Okay? This was the dream, and now I will say its interpretation before the king. You, O king, are the King of Kings, whom God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, strength, and glory. So, Daniel, talking to Nebuchadnezzar, calls him King of Kings. That's a pipe, You're dealing with the monarch, and Nebuchadnezzar was known to be a little arrogant person. So, you're going to basically give him his props, right? You, O king, are the King of Kings, to whom God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, the strength, and the glory. Wherever the sons of men inhabit, or beasts of the field, or birds of the sky, he has given them into your hands, and made you rule with power over them all. You are the head of gold. But after you, there will rise another kingdom inferior to you. That's why it's silver, because gold is inferior to silver is inferior to gold. Okay, and then another king, a third kingdom of bronze, which will rule with power over all the earth. There will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron, insomuch that iron crushes and shatters all things. So, like iron that breaks in pieces, it will crush and break all these in pieces. Now you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay, partly of iron. It will be a divided kingdom, but it would have the toughness of iron, insomuch that you saw the iron mixed with common clay. And as for the toes of the feet, were partly of iron and partly of clay. Some in the kingdom will be strong, and part of it will be brittle. And what you saw iron mixed with common clay, they will combine with one another in the seed of men, but they will not cling to one another, even as iron does not combine with clay. Well, it demonstrates that the last kingdom will be a weak kingdom, but it will have iron elements, but it's kind of weak. It's still a weaker kingdom. Not as strong as the Roman Empire was. Okay? Some of the kingdom will be strong. Okay. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will cause a kingdom to rise which will never be destroyed. And that kingdom will not be left for another people. It will crush and put to end of all these kingdoms, but it itself will stand forever. Insomuch as you saw that a stone was not cut out of a mountain, without hands, that it crushed the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God has made known you the king what will happen in the future. So the dream is certain, and its interpretation is trustworthy. So then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his knees and did homage to Daniel, paid homage to Daniel, and said to them who present with him, offering a fragrant incense, to present to him an offering of and fragrant incense. The king answered Daniel, truly your God is the God of gods, Lord of kings, and revealer of mysteries, since you have been able to reveal this mystery. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and he made him rule with power over the whole province of Babylon, and chief perfect over the wise men of Babylon. And Daniel sought of the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the administration of the province of Babylon, while Daniel was at the king's court. So this is how Daniel got promotion, and he got to be able to be in the ear with the king. And he also gave his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, high positions of power around the province of Babylon. But the important element here is that God gave Nebuchadnezzar a view of the future, to the end of the world, when this kingdom will come and crush everything, will wipe everything out. The coming kingdom will come and crush and wipe everything out. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But very straightforward, kind of, sort of. It's very straightforward. Y'all understand this? It's pretty straightforward?
Yes.
Looks fairly straightforward. And this is the reason why we see here, Babylon, if you look at history, Babylon, because that's where you started at, Babylon. Who took over Babylon? Medo-Persia, right? Then the Greeks took out the Persian Empire with Babylon, Alexander the Great. And then they collapsed to the strong and vicious Roman Empire. And at some point in time, we will see this mixed Roman Empire show up. That's going to be weaker. And then during those days, Christ will come and destroy it. Okay? So God's given us a picture of what's going to happen. Okay? In the future. Through Daniel. Right? It's key. So, that's the first one. Keep that one in mind, because there's going to be another. God is going to expound on this particular image. Of course. God is going to expound on that particular image because this particular image is important. This is like an overview of history. Okay? Well, when I say history, reality is overview of history there to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, if you're dealing with eschatology, you must know Daniel. You must know that particular picture, what's going to happen. All right? So, that was fairly clear. If we flip to... Now, chapter 9 is a beast all by itself. So we're going to go to chapter 8. No, I think it's chapter 7. Let me get to it first. Wait a minute, go. See chapter 7. Yes, chapter 7. Now, the first year of Belshazzar. Who's Belshazzar?
Daniel.
Belshazzar, king of Babylon. Who's that?
Oh, that's his one after Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, so it's Nebuchadnezzar's son, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Nebuchadnezzar's son took power. So Daniel saw a dream. So this dream was not given to Belshazzar. Okay? This was given to Daniel directly. So Daniel has a vision of 4 beasts. Now, we had a vision of 4 of this statue with 4 separate bodies. God gives Daniel a vision of 4 beasts. And we're going to read the vision and we're going to go through what these visions are. All right? First year, Daniel saw a dream and the visions in his head as he lay on his bed. And he wrote the dream down and said the following summary of the matter. Daniel answered and said, I was looking in a vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were sitting on a great sea, and 4 beasts. So, 4 winds of heaven was stirring up on the great sea. So he's looking out, and he sees water. And out of the sea. So, all right. Now, where is it? Where am I? Yeah. Conversation here. We're going to start this here. A lot of times when we start seeing in visions, especially when we talk about the Israelites, when they see things come from the land, that's typically coming from their own people. Okay? When stuff comes from the sea, those are typically the sea of Gentiles. Alright? So the idea of anytime they saw something coming from the sea, it's a Gentile thing. Alright, if it was coming from the land, it's an Israelite thing. It's a Hebrew thing. So keep that in mind. Daniel's looking out over the sea of peoples. Because when the Israelites thought of things, specifically way back in the day, when they were on the land, and the people who always came from the sea were your Philistines, were always enemies, and would always attack them, right? And the Philistines came from the sea. So they always pictured the sea as being not demonic, but basically of the nations. All right, so when you have pictures, when you have visions of nations coming, when you have visions of Gentiles, they typically are tied to the sea, the Great Sea, right?
Yes.
Also, keep that in mind when you look at Revelation, right? So when the animal is coming out of the sea, he's coming from the nations. If something's coming from the land, it was coming from the people of Israel. It was being somebody rising up from the people of Israel, typically. Okay? So, with that in mind, he sees a great sea. As he lays on the bed, 4 beasts come from the sea, different from one another. The first looks like a lion and had the wings of the eagle. And I kept looking till the wings were plucked. And it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a heart of man was given to it. And behold, another beast. So let's stop. So, you have this lion. Now, I can't draw worth nothing, like I said. and it stood up like a man. It's a lion, rawr, and it had its heart changed, and it had wings, and those wings were plucked. Okay? Now, I skipped over a couple of stories in Daniel, but this is actually something that's tied to an element of Daniel chapter 4. In chapter 4, Mr. Nebuchadnezzar, the primary king of Babylon, was wandering around thinking of how great his kingdom was, and he was like, I'm the man. Look what I did. I'm the man. And God said, if you think you're the man, let me show you something. Okay? I'm going to send you out for 7 years, and you're going to eat grass like an animal, and you're going to be humbled. Right? And his claws will grow, and he grew large hair like feathers. Right? And it talks about it like feathers. You see this beast has his wings plucked like feathers. His feathers were plucked. Okay, so for 7 years, he wandered in his own courtyard as a beast, as God's humbling Nebuchadnezzar. And then once he was humbled, he came to his own senses. And what did he say? We go back, we look at what Nebuchadnezzar says in chapter 4. Let's see. Where is it?
Nebuchadnezzar praises God.
Yes.
That's chapter 3, verse 26.
No. It's chapter 4, verse 28.
28.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what happened is he had a dream and he kept declaring himself as being God,
Yeah.
and God humiliates him, right? It's chapter 4. In the 12 months, so 12 months, I said 7 years. I meant 12 months. Well, let's see. At the end of those days, Nebuchadnezzar lifted up his eyes toward heaven, and my knowledge returned to me, and I blessed the Most High, praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominions are everlasting dominion. This is 34. And his kingdom endures from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of earth were accounted as nothing, but he does according to his will in the host of heaven among the inhabitants of the earth, and no one can strike against his hand or say to him, what have you done? At that time my knowledge returned to me, and my majesty and my splendor were returned to me for the glory of my kingdom, and my high officials and my nobles were seeking me out. So I was reestablished in my kingdom. The extraordinary greatness was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and exalt and honor the King of heaven, for all the works are true, and his ways just, and he is able to humble those who walk in pride.
Wow.
So God humbled him. Okay? God humbled him heavily. Right? So keep that in mind when you flip over this vision in chapter 7, what happened here. So his wings were plucked because he thought he was all that. And he was given a new heart. And he made a confession of who God truly is. Right?
Yeah.
That was the first beast. Right? Roaring lion. Right? And behold, so this beast therefore is what?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar, and specifically what did Nebuchadnezzar represent?
Babylon.
Babylon. Alright? He's the king, the most powerful king of Babylon's history. Okay? So he's the representative of Babylon. I mean, his sons, you continue to read down, you'll see what happened to his sons, right? His son got a little ignorant, took out the drinks, took out the vessels of the temple and started using them for common food, and God said, ha! Tonight you gonna, yeah. God wrote that little hand showed up, it was like, you gonna go. Tonight is your end. How dare you disrespect me? And yeah. And that day, Medo-Persia took over Babylon. That night, Medo-Persia flooded Babylon and took it over. All right? So don't disrespect the Lord Almighty. So that was the first beast, Babylon. Behold, another beast, the second one, of the likeness of a bear. And it was raised up on one side, and 3 ribs were in its mouth between its teeth. And thus he said to it, Arise and devour much meat. Okay? This bear came after Babylon. Draw it. Right? And one arm was raised up higher than the other, and had like 3 bars in his meat, in his teeth. So, this is the Medo-Persian Empire. Specifically, it's the Medo-Persian Empire because we see Medo-Persia with one arm up because the Persians were more powerful than the Medes. And when Cyrus came to power, he basically said, "Oh, you mean the Medians? We just wipe them out." So he took full power, and it became the Persian Empire. It used to be called Medo-Persia. Now we know it just as the Persian Empire because they were much more stronger than the Median peoples were. So that's why his arm is raised up. You'll see, anytime in the Bible, you'll see talk about the Medo-Persian Empire, one had one arm higher than the other. Or one demonstration, one horn is going to be larger than the other. Okay? Because the Persians was the long horn, and the short horn was the Median, or the Medians. Okay? The people of Media. Alright? So this beast, it had 3 ribs in it, and was between his teeth. The 3 ribs were 3 kingdoms he took over. He destroyed Babylon. He destroyed Egypt. The Medo-Persian Empire destroyed Babylon, Egypt, and a kingdom called Lydia, which used to be the Hittite kingdom. Think of Turkey, the area of Turkey. Okay, there was a kingdom there, a smaller kingdom, but they destroyed all those 3 kingdoms and took power, right? And they would devour much meat. The Persians wanted to be wanted to be strong. They crossed the river. They crossed the sea of the Aegean Sea and tried to take over what country? Greece. They try to take Greece, right? And here comes what happens when they try to take Greece. Here comes the leopard. And the leopard had 4 heads. Okay? And 4 wings. Now, the reason why Daniel saw them as a leopard, because a leopard is a stealth. It pops up and it kills quickly, and it's fast, and it does lightning quick type attacks. It's like a leopard, and the back had 4 wings as a bird, and the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Okay? And I kept looking at night visions, and behold, the 4th beast. And the heads represented the 4 generals that served after Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Okay? So you always see either one horn and then it'll break off to 4 horns in its picture, or one thing will break into 4 for the Greek kingdom. Okay? And he continued to keep having night visions. And a 4th beast, fearsome and terrifying and extraordinarily strong. And it had large iron teeth. Okay? Where did the iron come from?
Rome.
Picture back to this chapter 2, right? Iron, legs of iron, Rome association with the teeth, okay? And it devoured and crushed down and trampled with its feet. And it was different from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. So this beast, we don't know what, he couldn't describe what this beast is, but it had 10 horns on its head. Okay? And while I was contemplating the horns, because he's like, why does it have 10 horns? Can you imagine? 10 horns. What's going on here? He's contemplating the horns, and another horn, a little horn, came up from among them. And the first 3 horns were pulled out by the roots before it. And behold, his horn possessed eyes like an eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great boast, or great blasphemies, was speaking greatly. So this particular beast had 10 horns, and all of a sudden the first 3 horns were ripped out, and 1 horn took its place. And it had a great blasphemy and talked a lot of trash, okay? And Daniel just kept looking. I was like, that's weird. I mean, you think you're Daniel. You see this weird animal show up, and you're like, what is this? Right? And oh my gosh, and this little horn pops out, and it's just like, talking a lot of smack. And he kept looking until thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days was seated, and his clothing was like white as snow, and his hair was like pure wool, and his throne was a blazing fire, and its wheels were burning fire. A river of fire was flowing, coming up before him. Thousands upon thousands were attending to him, and myriads upon myriads were standing before him. The court said, and the books were opened. And I kept looking because the sound of the great, awful, boastful words with the horn was speaking. And I kept looking till the beast was killed. Its body was destroyed and given to the burning of fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away. An extension of life was given to them for an appointed season of time. But an extension of life was given to them for an appointed season of time. So what he's saying here, each of these animals had a specific season of time that they were given. Even this fourth thing. And his fourth thing had this little horn, was talking trash, even when the Ancient of Days was setting his thrones up. And eventually God said, nope, I'm going to burn you to take this out. Okay? And God eventually, the Ancient of Days clearly is who?
Jesus.
God. Yeah, good. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Jesus, God. Right. The Ancient of Days. Okay? So, and his visions kept going. And I kept looking in night visions, and behold, the clouds of heaven, and one like the Son of Man was coming. And he came up to the Ancient of Days, and he came before him. And to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and men of every tongue might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which will not be taken away, and his kingdom will not be destroyed. Now, the Ancient of Days is who again? God, the Father. Right? The Son of Man is who?
Jesus.
Okay? You see, there's a distinction here. Even God, even in Daniel, there's a distinction within the triune nature of the Godhead, right? God the Father and God the Son. There's a distinction there. So we see this distinction in the Old Testament. So when somebody says, well, the Trinity is a New Testament thing, no, it's in the Old Testament too. Right?
Sure.
So obviously, if you see this, you're going to be distressed. Agreed?
Yes.
You're going to be stressed out. So Daniel says in 15, as for me, my spirit was distressed within me, of course. And the visions of my head kept alarming me. I came near to one of those who were standing by and began speaking out from him exact meaning of all this. So he's having this vision and he sees somebody and he kind of comes up to us like, man, what's going on here? Right? In his vision, right? Talking to this person in the vision. Right? So he said to me to be known and made known to me the interpretation of these things. These great beasts, which are four in number, are four kings who will rise from the earth. Right?
Yes.
So, this is clearly tied to 7. It's clearly tied to 2. We had 4 kings. We had 4 kingdoms in 2. Right? We had 4 beasts in 7. Now we're having 4 more beasts. And Daniel's about to get more understanding about these 4 beasts. Okay? So each of these beasts are tied together. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. So he knows that the saints of the Holy One, the highest one, will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. Then I desired to know the exact meaning of the 4th beast. So, good thing about this, even in Daniel's picture here, if you see in Daniel's vision, he actually sees Gentiles being saved as well. How do we see that? Because we see, he says here, and that all the peoples, nations, and men of every tongue might serve him. So he actually sees a picture of people who are Gentiles being saved as well. I'm looking at chapter 14. So that's in his vision.
That was verse 14.
Yeah, verse 14. Not chapter
There is
14.
no chapter.
There is no chapter 14 in Daniel. If you're looking for it, you'll know. You'll know.
This is the last days in here.
Yes.
Before he got us ready to do the judgment, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So
It's very confusing. I mean, this whole chapter is very, to me,
it could be.
it's mind-boggling.
You have to make sure you keep
Well,
the
that's
four beasts. But I'm trying to help you to keep those.
Yeah.
The four beasts align with the four beasts that he talked about before, and align with the four kingdoms of the picture of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
Keep those in mind. Keep those in mind. Okay. Where was I? Then I desired to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, extraordinarily fearsome, with which his teeth of iron and claws of bronze, and which devoured, crushed, and trampled over the remainder with its feet. And the meaning of the 10 horns, and he's trying to figure out what all this means, were on its head, and the other horn which came up, with the three of them fell. When the three of them fell, namely the horn which had eyes and a mouth speaking great boasts, which was larger in appearance than its associates. And I kept looking at that horn, was waging war with the saints and overcoming them. So what he's saying is, on the great beast, on this fourth beast, there was this horn that was bigger than all the other horns, and that took out those other three horns, had mouth and had eyes. In other words, it's a person, because it had the eyes, the mouth, and it was speaking great boast, and it was waging war against the saints and overcoming them. So he's seeing that this person is persecuting the saints. Okay? This horn is persecuting the saints. Alright? Until the Ancient of Days come and judgment was given in favor of the saints of the highest one, and the season arrived when the saints took possession of the kingdom. So this scenario is going to happen with the fourth beast at its time, where it's going to wage war against the saints and overcome the saints until a time when the Ancient of Days is going to come and then set up his own kingdom. Okay? Not yet. Okay? Thus he said, so now here's the person going to speak and try to give him an interpretation. Alright, this is going to be the interpretation of the fourth beast. Thus he said, the fourth beast will be the fourth kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms, and will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. So this fourth beast is the fourth kingdom. Okay? At some point in time, this fourth kingdom is going to be there. If we think this is Rome, Rome is gone and past, right? So is this fourth beast Rome?
No.
This is the Antichrist.
I am telling you, yes, this fourth beast is Rome. Because Rome is going to come back. But that's giving you too much. Right? We'll get there. So this is the fourth beast. Its horns has 10 horns. 3 of them were, these horns represent kings. We're going to learn that. The 10 horns, out of this kingdom, 10 kings will arise. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom, this fourth kingdom, 10 horns will arise. And another will arise after them, and he will be different from the previous one, and make low 3 kings. He will overthrow 3 kings of the 10 kings that arises out of the fourth beast. So at some point in time, this fourth beast will be 10 kings ruling it. Now remember, back in chapter 2, that kingdom we had a kingdom of iron on the legs, and the feet were what?
Clay.
Iron and clay, mixed with clay, common clay.
Right.
And then it talked about toes. How many toes are on a foot?
10.
Well, 2 feet. 5 on each feet, alright? 5 on each foot. So 10 feet, 10 toes. Those 10 tones represent the 10 kings. All right. So now we have a more discussion about these 10 kings. In these 10 kings, which will be ruling this ironish and clay kingdom, another king is going to arise that's not like the other kings. He is going to overthrow 3 of those kings and be much stronger than all the other kings. So he would dominate the 4th beast. Okay? And that king is going to make war against all the other, against all the saints. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point in time, this 4th beast is going to have 10 kings ruling over it. Rome has never had a scenario where they had 10 kings ruling over it yet. Okay? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's never happened yet. So we haven't had the 10 kings, so this other horn has not shown up yet. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Alright? Furthermore, when he's ruling, then the Ancient of Days is going to set up his kingdom. He's going to come down and set up his kingdom with the Son of Man. Right? So at some point in time, has God set up his kingdom yet?
Not yet.
No. So during this time where this 4th beast, with the 10 horns, with the big horn, overthrowing his other kingdom, has to be sometime in the future. Okay? Sometime in the future. Okay? Even the future to us. Definitely in the future to Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel was only around for him and him. He was not around for this, and definitely not around for this. Okay? Keep that in mind. So, where were we? He will speak words against the Most High and wear down the saints of the Highest One. He is intended to make changes in the seasons and in law. And he will be given, and they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. So, when we hear about this particular horn, he will be given series for a time, times, and then half a time. Okay? So, we'll find out in chapter 9, time is 1 year, plus times is 2 years, and a half a time is 1.5 year, right? So for 3.5 years, this horn will dominate the saints and will persecute the saints, right? But the court will sit for judgment, and his dominion will be taken away and annihilated and destroyed forever. So at this particular time, when this happens, after this happens, then God is going to intervene and set up his kingdom forever. All right? Then the reign, dominion, the greatness of all the kingdoms under the heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the domains will obey him. At this point, the matter of this revelation ended. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts were greatly alarming me, and splendor of my face changed, but I kept the matter at heart. Questions?
I can't imagine what he went through. He must have been, I mean, we have a lot more knowledge than he had.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine him having to go through that. That's got to have been really hard on him.
Correct.
Yeah.
Agreed. To go through all of that craziness to see what's going on in Daniel, as Daniel's visions is very stressful.
Yeah.
So he will definitely. So he knows. He's seen the lion. I'm pretty sure he knows who the lion is. He has no clue what this fourth beast is.
Yeah.
No clue. Right?
He don't even know what it looks like.
Doesn't even know what it looks like. Right? So he couldn't even describe it. Right? He described a four-headed leopard. Right? A four-headed leopard. I can see that's at least a leopard. He said this beast, he didn't even know what this is. That tells you how different this beast is going to look compared to all the other kingdoms. Right? So, keep this in mind. So, Daniel sees these things, and he's trying to ponder what he's getting. And what Daniel gets, though, so keep this in mind. He's getting the picture for the last 4 kingdoms that is involving Israel. All right? Why did I say this is involving Israel?
Because Israel is going to have a kingdom pretty soon.
True, but also I would note this.
He is an Israelite.
He's a Jew. And here's the point. Were the other kingdoms going around during Nebuchadnezzar's time? Where there's a kingdom in like China or something going on? Yeah. But for Daniel's view, what was Daniel looking at?
His area.
His particular people and what would affect his people.
Yes.
Which is why when God is talking about what's going on in the earth, he's talking about what's affecting the people of Israel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So the Bible isn't talking about what's going on in China, what's going on in wherever else, right? It's talking about what's affecting Israel at the time. And what will affect Israel. Right?
Yeah. That makes so much more sense.
That makes sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So, now, will what happens to Israel also affect the people of China?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes! Because God is the God of what? The whole earth.
Oh.
But who is his people?
Israel.
His nation. The chosen nation is Israel. So when God says it's affecting, these are the kingdoms of the earth, he's talking about that which is affecting my people Israel. Right? So that's why the focus will always be on Israel. Not America. Not China. Not anything else. Not anybody else. Right? Israel is the focus.
Yeah.
So these nations all affect Israel. And because of that, that's why he was seeing what was going on with Israel. And you're going to start seeing as we continue with next week, because it's already 8:15, we're going to start seeing how he'll start describing more and more what's going on with this beast and with the leopard with the 4 heads and different beasts. He'll talk about the goat and the ram, and then the beast that comes after the goat and the ram, right?
Yep.
So, and then chapter 9 is all its meaning all its own. We got to deal with chapter 9. That's going to be a whole conversation. Chapter 9 is very...
As long as you have them, I'm going to have to listen to these things over and over, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm making plan on just sitting there and going through them because this is not sinking in all the way. It's processing. This is hard to process, I think.
So we'll also give you, I'm not the purveyor, but I'm not teaching something that has not ever been taught before. There's a YouTuber called Bible Explained. Bible Explained. He does an excellent job of discussing this exact same thing. Because he did a whole 30 videos on eschatology. And he breaks down
what's his name? Do you know?
It's Bible Explained is the YouTube channel.
I got it. Okay.
So you go to YouTube, type Bible Explained. He has a whole list of videos on eschatology.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right.
That'll help clarify.
Yeah. He has little pictures, much better than my pictures, okay?
He's making money.
What is your link there?
That it's under my name. You just type Derrick Perry.
Oh.
Or type FBC Eschatology.
It's in the FBC website, right?
Mm-hmm. Go to YouTube and go do FBC Eschatology class.
Okay.
Tuesday night Eschatology class, FBC. It should pop up. And I'm putting it in a playlist so you can go through it as well.
Okay.
So.
I'm glad you said that.
But Bible Explained is really good. So he actually has a very good pitch. And what I just described, he gives 3 videos on the book of Daniel and the visions of Daniel, which are really good. And he breaks it out as kind of how I'm breaking it out. He broke out 2, 7, and 8. No, he broke out 2, 7, 8, and 12. And then he went and got back, went to chapter 9. Because chapter 9 is really important. Chapter 9 provides you full details of who the actual Antichrist is and things of that nature. Noting, FY, this big horn on this fourth beast is the Antichrist. Okay? In the 3.5 years in the conversation of that perspective. All right?
This
Any-
is amazing.
Any questions? No questions? And oh, by the way, he actually does have a good explanation of Matthew 24, which is really good to read, really good to watch too. And he talks about it. It's funny because I would always, when I always read Matthew 24, and it would say, "Let the reader understand." I'm like, why does he say, "Let the reader understand"? What does that mean? Come to find out, he actually said, no. When Jesus said, "Let the reader understand," he's saying, "Let the reader of Daniel understand." Right? If you're reading Daniel, you should understand this. So Jesus was leaning on Daniel when he was telling the disciples about his coming.
Okay.
So if you understand Daniel, you'd understand Matthew 24.
Yeah, okay.
So very important, very important.
Oh, it is.
So
Oh, this is something else. I love it.
if you have any more questions, it is 8:17, and I'm going to let you go home.